is that the most famous person ever to come from Wheaton, Illinois.
When I heard Bill Murray say this, when I heard it the first time, I thought, no, he's leaving somebody out, because he says Jim Belushi. Jim Belushi, I grew up basically in Wheaton, Illinois. It's like 90 minutes west of Chicago. And it has a bit of a history, but the most famous person that's ever come out of there is absolutely Jim Belushi. He went to Wheaton High School. My sister went to Wheaton High School, and they recognize him at the high school. I mean, they did when my sister went there. I'm sure they still do, because Wheaton is it's like you have this image of Jim Belushi, right? He's the Chicago Blues Brother. You know, that's always the image people have, and yet he was from Wheaton. If you knew about Wheaton, Wheaton is just this little town, very Christian. In fact, I think at one point it's very liberal now. I mean, they always were rather, but they were so Christian at one time that you couldn't buy booze on Sunday. So, and it's just a little small town. It's just hard to imagine that somebody like Jim Belushi came from there, you know, because he was so famous. And yet, Wheaton is also, its history is it was a stop with the Underground Railroad. Yeah, that's the other big thing about it. And what's sad is that Bob Woodward, Bill Murray's right, Bob Woodward. I did a video, a couple of them, maybe. Well, one about Bob Woodward, because Bob Woodward, when Trump was in his first term, he did tape, because he always does something with the presidents and writes a book, okay, usually. But with Trump, he did the Trump tapes, and the media ran with these. But when you listen to them, and if you're a liberal, it would make liberals, you know, hate Trump even more. But it's almost like you could tell that Trump can't stand Bob Woodward. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. You'll think, why is Trump doing this? And then I'm like, oh, he doesn't like him. And you could understand why if you've ever listened to Bob Woodward. Okay, when he talks, it's like you want to smack him and like liven up, like put some, you know, like you're alive in your sentences, because he talks so monotone. He's like, well, I tried, because in the Trump tapes, it's like an audio book, but it's not a written book. It's just Trump tapes. It's just him interviewing him or you know, following him in the White House kind of thing. Not video, just audio. And so in between the certain chapters, Bob Woodward is narrating. And so, but he's asking him questions throughout, but really just following his day-to-day. But in between the chapters, he would narrate, and he'd be like, when Donald Trump would ask me this, and then I would tell him, you know, he's in the highest office and he really needs to think about what he's saying and he shouldn't. And it's like you just say, stop it. Just either stop talking or add some life to your words. It's just, so Bob Woodward is just a weird, like, I don't know. He's just, so you realize when you start, you know, listening for long enough in the tapes, you're like, oh no, Trump's just messing with him. Trump's like, what do you think of this, Bob? What do you think? What do you think about Iran? Do you have an opinion, Bob? You know, you could tell it's classic Trump that would drive liberals crazy. But if, you know, you're a Trump supporter, you're laughing your ass off because you can recognize what Trump's doing. And then the media ran with these tapes to try to, you know, say anything Trump says they want to rip apart. And you could just tell he can't stand Bob Woodward. He's never said that, but that would be my guess. It's like he's just messing with them, and you know, he's loud and he's just like, yeah, what do you think I should? What do you think? You think I should put this big picture of myself here, Bob? It's just to mess with him. You could tell he's messing with him. But Bob would take everything so seriously, and I don't think that Trump is taking his position seriously. And I've tried to tell him, it's just like. Yeah, so Bob Woodward did come out of Wheaton, Illinois. He's a strange person. But there's something else, Wheaton, Illinois, and it reminded me because I had thought of Billy Graham. Because I thought, well, Billy Graham is the most famous from Wheaton, Illinois. But he wasn't from Wheaton. But he did, Billy Graham, the evangelical pastor, he did graduate. I would think he's the most famous alumni to come out of Wheaton College. And this is Wheaton College. It's a beautiful campus. It's a liberal arts evangelical school. It was, at one point, I think it was one of the most famous evangelical colleges. It may still be, but I think they've lost sight, like many of the denominations of Christianity. They've really lost sight of a lot of stuff. But I was never evangelical, but I did, because I lived in Wheaton. I would go to the campus often, not because I was going to school there, but to go to this building right here. It's their museum, and it's just the history of evangelicalism. I mean, it's interesting. I went through the museum. It's free. I went through it once. It's like, you pick up the phone and listen to the history, and it has pictures everywhere. But they have one room, and there's no history behind it. It's just, I was drawn to it. So I would often, just out of the blue, I would go to this room. And I'm going to show the room in a minute. But before you go in the room, and you don't have to go in the room, you'll understand in a minute. But this is outside. There comes a moment when we all must realize that life is short. And in the end, the only thing that really counts is not how others see us, but how God sees us. For the believer, there is hope beyond the grave, because Jesus Christ has opened the door to heaven for us by his death and resurrection. Billy Graham. And then, if you choose, you can go into this room. I don't even know what they call it, the cloud room, I would say. So this is all there is to it. There's no history. It's just this room. And you don't have to go through it, because the illusion of it can bother some people. So all it is glass and mirrors. So you could see this line. You see this line? So this is the floor. So if you were standing on this floor and you're looking down, that's what you see, just endless clouds. That's all, because it's mirrors and glass. It's just this walkthrough. There's no chairs, nothing in it. It's just glass and mirrors and these clouds. And the clouds look real. And if you look up, what you see below is what you'd see. It's just like you're standing among the clouds. It's so cool. And so, and you can see this arc that goes all the way across. This is the floor, but then up here, from this up, is a railing. It's just a glass railing. So if you wanted to hold on to the railing or look down, what you would see is what you're seeing right there. It's so cool. I was drawn to it. So I would often, just out of the blue, go to it. And this was back, when I was a really, really young adult, and I was still drinking. So I think I was seeking God, but I hadn't quite, I wasn't quite there yet. But yeah, I would go to the Wheaton College just for that very reason, was this room. And that's all there is to it. It's just so cool. Give you the, wanting to feel that connection with God. Again, it was before I actually found God, but clearly I was seeking, because I knew I needed some help. But so I would go there. I would go just to Wheaton College just to go in this room. Yeah, there's nothing. That's just a little thing. That's the best thing, in my opinion, to Wheaton College. But Bill Murray, Jim Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Gilda Radner, Chevy Chase, that whole first SNL cast, there never has been, there never will be a cast like that. They will always be the best, the funniest. They weren't so political back then. They would be occasionally, but it wasn't like they were, leaning one way or another necessarily. Like when they would do that their news show, yeah, that would be. But it wasn't as political as it is now. Like, they've had some funny people that have come from SNL since then, like Chris Farley is one of the ones that comes to my mind, but never the cast like that. I mean, SNL will never be what it was with the Bill Murray and Chevy Chase and Jim Belushi cast. That was the best. Like, every skit was funny. I'm surprised SNL still is even on TV, but Bill Murray and that group, they were the best cast. And Jim Belushi was one of the funniest people on there, and he was from this little small Christian town called Wheaton, Illinois.